Okay, so a couple quick reminders before we jump into today. Today is actually a very, very brief instructional day. Um, I'm going to teach you about one thing that is probably going to pop up on a test, but I don't feel it's like worthy of an entire day. Because once you see it, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's kind of stupid. And I would agree, but the state may test it that way, so I want you to understand it. Then you have one of two things that you can be working on. There is in your classwork packet something that says U8D10 multi-step practice. It's like 4 pages of practice, 2 pages front and back. It's everything. It's everything that could potentially be on the test tomorrow. So that's a good practice sheet for tomorrow, okay? If you get done with that, and that's just classwork, so I'll put out the keys, same key process as always. Just do a few, check a few, do a few, check a few, take advantage of your time. Remember, you have a review that is also due on Friday. That review is due on Friday. And if you didn't start it last night because you were busy or you forgot or whatever, do not wait till Thursday night on that review because you will spend an inordinate amount of time doing it if you wait till Thursday night. Because it's basically 2 pages front and back, which is 4 pages, right? I'd be knocking out a page a night. Okay, that way it's just easy, it's not overwhelming, no big deal. Okay? Any questions on kind of how the schedule rolls? Remember, you're taking your test on, you're taking a CMS assessment tomorrow, and you're taking the district assessment on Monday. And then that's Unit 8, end of story. Good to go? Any questions on all that fun stuff? All right. So let's get into today. It says find the product. Now, again, when we're talking about find the product, we're just working backwards from the factors, right? Remember, these are called factors. These are the factors of a quadratic. And what methods are available to us to solve when we're multiplying? Joey? FOIL? Yeah, name them all. FOIL, box, double distributive. Which one should you use? Whichever one you want to work on. Okay, so here, I'll do double distributive first, just to kind of remind you. Double distributive is where you take the first term and multiply it times this entire thing, 2x minus 5. Then you take the second term and multiply it times 2x minus 5. It's almost grouping in reverse. It's kind of grouping in reverse, right? When you distribute, you end up with 4x squared minus 10x plus 10x minus 25. So the product of the first one, I did not give myself very much room to work. The product of the first one is basically 4x squared. What happens here? Cancels out, minus 25. By the way, which happens to be what? The difference of 2 perfect squares. Remember yesterday? Difference of squares. When you have the same things with subtraction and addition, it's the difference of squares, okay, in reverse. Any questions on that? On this one, I'm going to use FOIL because I don't have that kind of patience. So, by the way, what do we have here? Do we have the same terms in each place? Do we have addition and subtraction? It's difference of squares in reverse. So with difference of squares, what do we not have when we write the quadratic? The middle term, the b terms, right? So one way you could do it if you really want to kind of cheat, what's 3a times 3a? What's 4b times 4b? So recognizing difference of squares saves you time. Recognizing difference of squares in reverse can save you time. Now, if you went ahead and FOILed that or box methoded that or double distributed that, you should have ended up with the same thing. Andrew? Sure. Yes. Yes. That's what he just asked. Good to go? Guys, here's ultimately the thing. I'll just caution you about this. Y'all have been in Unit 8 all of 2 weeks, essentially. Be very careful about getting overconfident and taking shortcuts yet. You'll get to a place mathematically where you're like, you see it and you just know it. Like I can see, whenever I'm foiling something, I can really do it all in my head, right? Because I know how to do F, and then I know to do O and the I and add them up, and I know how to do the L. And so I can just basically write the quadratic from the two binomials. But until you get rock solid, especially now, you don't want to mail in points on a test because you made silly mistakes because you're still fairly new at the process. When in doubt, follow every step. When in doubt, follow every step. Because most of y'all are already seeing when you get your homework back, every once in a while, you just make this like weird negative mistake or something like that. You can't be doing that. You know, if I give you a 16-question test, you do 2 of those, and all of a sudden you're at a low B. You don't, this may not be a reflection of how much you know. So I'm just saying be cautious about that. Any questions on the first 2? Okay, so number 3 says find the vertex of the parabola. In order to find the vertex of the parabola, what should we do? We need to make it, well, that's an interesting thing. You could type that into y equals. Raise your hand if you decided to do that. How many of you went ahead and multiplied and FOILed? You could actually type that into your calculator. Watch. Go to y equals, type in parentheses, 5 minus 4x, close parentheses, open another one, x plus 2, close parentheses, go to my table. And what am I looking for in my table? Symmetry. But what do I not have? I don't have symmetry. But I do want you to know this is a y equals equation that you could absolutely type into your calculator. And that's a quick, fast, 1-minute check, because a lot of times on your table you'll see symmetry, and at that point you have your vertex. In this case we don't, so I'm going to go ahead and FOIL it. So when I FOIL it, 5 times x is 5x, outside is plus 10, inside is minus 4x squared, and the last 2 is minus 8x. Now, if you look at this, what's wrong with that? The order is all jacked up. So when I combine like terms, which are here and here, I want to write it in standard form. So I end up with negative 4x squared minus 3x plus 10. Negative 4x squared minus 3x plus 10. If I type that in my calculator, I still don't have the vertex, so I'm stuck with negative b over 2 times a, negative, so which is negative negative 3 over 2 times negative 4, which is 3 over negative 8, negative 3/8, right? So I go to the second window, I type in negative 3 divided by 8, I go to the table, I look for symmetry, I have it, therefore my vertex of that, I'm going to go ahead and fold this down. My vertex is negative 3/8, comma, 10.56. Any questions on that? Good test? Okay. That negative b over 2 times a is a must. What else do we know about this parabola, please? It opens down. What else? Narrow or wide? Narrow. Y-intercept? Positive 10. Range? Y is less than or equal to what? 10.56. Axis of symmetry? X equals negative 3/8. Make sure you wrap all the fun stuff up. Let's talk about algebra tiles, then we'll get into practice. Algebra tiles are a way that some algebra courses introduce the concept of multiplying polynomials. We do not. But I do need to explain to you the way that it looks. Couple things I want you to think about before we get going. The little squares in an algebra tile model are single ones. Long rectangles are x terms, and perfect big squares are x squared terms. If they are white, they are positive. If they are shaded, they are negative. And then you just start doing this. See this guy right here? This is an algebra tile model of the following: x minus 3, x plus 1. How did I get x minus 3, x plus 1? Joey? I looked at the top. It's x minus 3 and then x plus 1. It's that simple. And the partial products, I'll get to that in just a moment. Well, let's go ahead and do the partial products. The partial products are before we combine like terms. Well, how many x squared guys do we have? One x squared guy. What does this mean? Negative 3x. What does this mean? Positive 1x, and what's left? Minus 3. Those are the partial products, which means the final product is x squared minus 2x minus 3. That's really it. You look in the middle you look here for the products, and you look here for the factors. It's just like a regular box method setup. So let's walk this. Now, here's the way that I do it, just so you kind of know. I told you that the long rectangles are what? X's. The little bitty squares are 1s, and the big squares, x squared guys. So I just usually start filling things in. What does that make this rectangle right here? X. What does it make this rectangle? X. And then we start, that makes this x squared, right? This is essentially 2 negative 1s, which makes this 2 negative x's. This is a negative 1, a negative 1, a negative 1, a negative x, a negative x, a negative x. And why did these all of a sudden become unshaded? Because they're the product of 2 negatives. Negative 1 times negative 1. So all I've done now is just filled all my garbage in, right? Based off of what I know about little squares, big squares, and rectangles. Which means that this is, if I were saying what problem is this as far as factors? It's what times what? X minus 2, x minus 3. That's it. It's x minus 2, which is right here, and x minus 3, which is right here. My partial products, that's where I look inside. It's x squared minus 2x minus 3x plus 6. And I get my final product, which is x squared minus 5x plus 6. Get it? This is why we don't spend a day on this. By the way, some algebra programs spend like 2 days on this. Fill that guy in. Is it really? Hold. Oh, that's very nice. Okay, so fill in all the insides. I know. I just work here. So once you get that it's x plus 2 and x plus 2, you just start filling everything in. X, 1, 1, x, 1, 1. What I don't want you to do is write 2 and 2, because that's not 2. So you end up with x squared, x, 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 1, 1, 1, 1, which gives you partial product of x squared plus 2x plus 2x plus 4, which is x squared plus 4x plus 4. Draw that one. Oh my gosh! I know what she copied. Oh, she's killing me. No one, I'm not saying anything because she might listen to my recording. Okay, I'll be changing these before the next class. There's a key. She copied the key. That's why everything's filled in. Okay, so now we're going to get interactive. Everyone taking, no, I guess you shouldn't take your notes because they're good. So let's see. Riley, go draw for me that. Now, when you draw, and I'm going to guide her through this. When you draw, I always start with the outside. I break down the binomial, and then I start with the outside. So let's do x minus 1. Draw x minus 1 across the top. What would that look like? Excellent. Perfect. And then, well done. Have a seat. Okay. Ethan, draw the left-hand side. Draw the other binomial. I was like, why is everything filled in? I'm going to have to call her. Now, did you notice that all the kids got the notes right? Yes, what is happening? Okay, outstanding, right? So are they both correct? Is the top one correct? Is this x minus 1? Yes, and is this x plus 3? It is, so now we fill in the middle. So here's we got Siva. This is where, by the way, this is where, wow, hold. Okay. Yes, Ethan raised his hand, and there we go. So here we go. So we have this. I did, you're right. Okay. They're going to get over it. So there we go, right? Which means that when drawn to scale, that makes this our x squared guy, right? This was shaded, which makes it a rectangle. Makes this a rectangle, this a rectangle, this a rectangle, and then we should end up with 1, 2, 3 squares. Does everyone basically get it? Any? Hold. Done. Okay. Any questions on all this? Hey, they're algebra tiles. Just remember shaded negative, not shaded positive, little squares, 1s, rectangles, x's, big squares, x squareds. Yes, sir. Yes, I'm going to give you yes. Absolutely. Okay, so here's what you got. Who's got the packets out? Okay, get your packet out. Brady does. Huh. Okay. If you look at multiplying and factoring mixed practice, it says that there's homework. There is not. No homework tonight. I want you to work on the classwork and spend the time in class working on the classwork mixed practice. If necessary, if you finish with that, then jump into your review. Okay? I want you ready for the test tomorrow, and the mixed practice is the best way to do it. Any questions, peeps? All right, go.